AI prompts are the foundation of every successful AI automation, especially when you're using tools like Make.com. I've written hundreds of AI prompts across real-world workflows for my business and my clients. In this video, I'm going to walk through everything that's been working for me. This is a complete guide to AI prompt engineering within Make.com. Here's what we'll walk through. How to write great prompts consistently, how to chain multiple prompts together, how to manage the output of a prompt, for example, JSON versus text, how to use ChatGPT to actually create your prompt. I'll share the prompt that I use to create a lot of my prompts. And as usual, I'll walk through some examples within Make.com. So let's jump in. I've written hundreds of AI prompts for my business as well as my clients, and I'm going to walk through what's been working for me. Now, the biggest difference between AI automation prompts and let's say just ChatGPT is you pretty much have one shot with an AI automation prompt within that one step of your scenario. So that prompt expects some type of input and you need to have some type of output. And it's not like ChatGPT where you can go ChatGPT and it's like wrong and it's not correct. And you're like, hey, can you reformat it this way or do something this way? With Make.com and just scenarios in general, you have to follow a specific process to make sure that the input and the output are the same thing that you want every time. And I'm going to walk you through the exact steps to be able to do that. Now, if you're getting inconsistent results or if you're getting just like weird results, this formula I'm going to walk through should help you with that. So let's walk through what's been working for me. Every one of my prompts now generally follows this formula. When I switched to this formula, everything seemed to become more consistent and more reliable. And I'm literally just breaking down the role, the context, the task, and the format. And then I'll go through chaining steps and what that means in a minute. But the sections are role. So you just want to say, what's the role of the AI assistant or prompt or like that moment, that GPT you're creating, that step that you need it to act as. And I find you can either say like act as a or you are a. I usually just stick with you are a customer support agent. You're a marketing copywriter, financial analyst, and you can add in like what specifically they do. And you put in context. So what is the actual context of what should be happening within that prompt? You are reviewing a form submitted by a potential lead. You're processing a Slack message from a team member asking for help. You're summarizing a customer's reply to a follow-up email. Like again, use human language and keep it simple and concise. And then you want to be explicit on what you want it to do. If you don't make the task specific enough, sometimes you'll get inconsistent results. So you wouldn't just want to say like, please summarize this. You would want to say, please list out the 5 bullet points. Each one should be under 30 words. But in general, the idea is that some type of task, and you want to get specific with these. So extract the customer's main pain points from the message. Determine if this lead is qualified based on job title and company size. And these are these ones are high level. You would want to go even deeper and bullet point out your actual requirements and test different versions and test if you go too specific, not specific enough, just to get the format that you're looking for. And then finally, the format, this is what you're actually going to say is the output. So usually I would say maybe 80% of the time I'm having it output some type of JSON. Even if I'm just having it return some type of text, a lot of times I have additional data I need to send with it. So I'm going to have it respond with some type of JSON. And I'll show you in a minute how these all fit within an actual Make.com scenario and how they connect to each other. Because ultimately, you're going to use the output from one of your steps or from this prompt in the next module within your Make.com scenario. So that's a format I've been using. And it's been working great for me for all of my company automations as well as client automations. But now let's get a little meta and I will show you the prompt I use to create prompts. And I've been using this for probably the past month. It's been working pretty well. And you'll actually see the output of the formula. So here's the prompt to create prompts. So everyone has a prompt, and I'm sure you'll create a prompt that works great for you. Here's the gist of what I've been using just to share what's working for me. The idea is I set, you're an expert AI prompt engineer. There's the role. Your task is tell me generate a reliable, automated, automation-friendly prompt using the following structure. And then I outline the structure I want. The prompt you create should be copy paste ready for Make or Zapier, deterministic, easy to parse, blah, blah, blah. Here's the information about what I need. And then this is what I actually replace with the content I need. So I'd say purpose, input type, output structure, style or tone, edge case handling, and then it'll generate the actual prompt. So my typical workflow is I'll put this in, get it started, and then I'll say, oh, I need these two other properties that I forgot about within the JSON response. And this has been working great. So let's run this in ChatGPT and I'll walk you through what it actually looks like. So if I throw the prompt in, just copy and paste it, and then, so you don't have to watch me type. I've already created some example placeholder here. And the idea is pretty much just a lead scoring automation that we could test as an example. And I have the purpose. I explain what it is, the input type, plain text from a form, and the output structure, JSON with, and you might want to like bullet point these out or something, if it's easier to see, like, whatever. Again, you can make this your own. Some edge case handling and then constraints. So let's run it and see what comes up with. Which is exactly what we're looking for. Your professional lead qualification assistant, context, you will receive a plain text from a website submission. So it's like a fantastic start. It's kind of the idea. So I'll take this and, for example, like it gave examples, but if you notice the format is kind of crappy. So let's have it reformat it. Please write this as a code block of plain text without code fences. So the code fences are what's happening here. If you're to try and copy and paste this, it would be a pain. ChatGPT is not here to make our lives harder. It's here to make our lives easier. So instead of me trying to reformat everything, I just have it recreate it. All right, so it almost did it. Well, it did it, but it thought it was C#. So you could have some back and forth with ChatGPT and say, hey, you did this wrong, redo it, add dashes for some of these things. But otherwise, this is fantastic. So, role, context, task. They have a well-formatted prompt without actually taking the time of like writing every single line of it. I've been doing this like crazy and it's been saving me a ton of time, especially the examples. The example output, example edge case, like these are so annoying to create. So now I just have ChatGPT make them. But this has been my process recently. It's been working fantastic. So I would copy and paste this over to the make module, and I'll walk you through that here in a minute. The final piece is how do we chain our prompts together? And again, our AI automation doesn't allow you to have a chat back and forth. So if something comes back incorrectly, you can't do anything about it. It just, the scenario breaks or it's incorrect data. So typically what we want to be able to do is take a very large prompt, and it might be something like take this YouTube transcript and create, blog posts and LinkedIn posts and tweets. You can't put all that in one prompt. It would just get destroyed. So we need to be able to chain prompts to understand how do we take the input from one prompt or input from some type of trigger into the prompt. The prompt generates some type of output that goes into the next prompt as an input, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, this gives us much more consistent and reliable AI output. Troubleshooting is much easier. If something breaks within a scenario, you can look and be like, oh, here's where this one prompt is failing. A lot of times we can end up reusing those simple prompts. So I've definitely reused like summarize this large amount of text for me. Like I said, AI doesn't do well with large, massive prompts with multiple tasks. You really want to break it down into small, finite tasks. And ultimately, the whole point of this would be like, how do we pass structured data from one into the next, into the next, into the next? So for example, we might have some type of form submission on our website, and we want to identify, is this a qualified lead or not? So the form submission would come in to our make scenario. We would extract some type of key information. So maybe that form submission includes a RFP PDF, or it includes some type of SOW attached to it. We obviously wouldn't want to have that be in one massive prompt. So we would want to be able to break out, okay, let's first get our company information, the company goals, and a summary of what they're looking for. And then let's pass it over and actually qualify the lead. So we'd have one step that was just qualifying the lead. Okay, now that we've collected all this information, let's see, is this even a good fit for our company? And that would be its own prompt, its own step in the scenario. And then the final one would be some type of like actually generating an email draft. So we might have some type of follow-up, quick follow-up. Hey, it looks like this is a fantastic opportunity for us. Give us a couple days to look at it. We might follow up with some questions. And you can see each of these could have some type of different output. So the output of the extracted key info would be JSON. The qualified lead would be maybe JSON. And I would probably actually use this as JSON because I usually just have everything be JSON, structured JSON, but maybe this one's just text. Let's actually go and build something like this, and I'll walk you through the full process of how I would go about creating these prompts and creating a basic scenario. So I have a blank scenario here, and I'm going to just get this going from scratch. So let's just, instead of actually going and doing the full YouTube transcript scraping, which I do have a video on. So if you haven't seen the YouTube transcript scraping that turns it into, I think, 12 social posts, go check that one out. But for now, I'm just going to actually use a variable with the YouTube transcript in it for now. I grabbed a YouTube transcript. This is from a Dan Martell YouTube video about something very inspirational. Yes, he's always very inspirational about business or health or something. So we're just going to have it set the variable to the transcript, and then we can kind of jump right into it. So let's go back to our ChatGPT and start a new chat. I'll paste our prompt with the inputs that I already wrote, so you don't have to watch me type. So at purpose, I want to analyze YouTube video transcript, extract the core messages, and generate 5 high-performing LinkedIn post ideas based on those insights. Then I describe the input, plain text transcript from YouTube video, output structure. I say it's JSON with the following fields, core messages, the LinkedIn post ideas, and the style and tone, and edge cases, and field constraints. So let's run it and generate our prompt and see what we get. So here we go. The output is a fantastic prompt. So it breaks down the role, the context. This all looks great. Task, analyze a transcript, extract the core messages, and generate 5 high-performing LinkedIn post ideas based on those insights. Output format, return the JSON object with the following 2 fields. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with core messages yet, but I'm interested to see what it outputs. So I included it. Ultimately, we're probably just going to use a LinkedIn post ideas. Some edge case handling, reliability, don't fabricate, don't hallucinate. Base all inputs solely on the content of input data. So, again, you have to look at these because this is not correct. We don't want our input data here. We want our input data here. And then it gives some good example outputs, which again, I wouldn't want to create these. So let's let ChatGPT create these. OpenAI does better when it has examples, but it's a pain to create a bunch of examples. So, read through these, make sure it makes sense. But it should point it in the right direction at least. Cool, so let's grab this. The only thing we'll need to change is the input data. We just really needed to just say input data, input variable. It might just call this input data. All right, let's move over to here. And then we're just gonna do OpenAI module, create completion, throw it in. So if you're not familiar with how to use OpenAI within here or some of the more advanced settings, let's run through them real quick. So you're typically gonna use create a chat completion, and then the models change constantly. I've been using the O4 Mini. It has some reasoning in it, but honestly, just do your research. These change constantly. So the OpenAI has a fantastic little breakdown of what you should use each one for. And some have certain settings and some don't. So for example, O4 Mini has the option to give it an image, and it can do image recognition and processing, whereas some of the others don't. You'd also want to pay attention to cost. How much do each of these models cost? And you're kind of going to balance the logic, generation, how advanced do you need your prompt versus what the cost is. Now, the basic process is you just click add a message, the role, you choose user, and I have in the past added developer system. I don't know if this has added that much support. So what you would put here is the developer slash system. You would add any baseline prompting. The thing is, we really add that within our role and our context, within our prompt. So unless you're doing some really deep, crazy prompt or chaining prompt, multiple prompts within this, so multiple messages, so you can add multiple messages here if you want to, then you probably can just stick with user. I would test it out and see. But then you're gonna put your text here. So let me make this big enough so you can actually see it. So I'm just gonna paste it in, and then we'll fix our data here. So let's change this to input data. We'll call this input data, and then this can be our input data, which we just need to give it the YouTube transcript from the previous step from our variable. Now let's look at the advanced settings. This is where we can actually define the output. And again, most of the time I'm picking JSON. And usually for returning JSON object, you want to go ahead and parse the JSON object. And then reasoning effort, I usually just leave this blank, and it'll just default to the medium, which has always worked just fine. But I think that might affect pricing. I actually haven't looked at it. Yeah, fewer tokens with less reasoning. Max token completion, it's probably fine leave it this. I found that I've had to increase it massively if I give it an image. So for example, I could give it an image URL and it process the image and it needs like 10,000 tokens. That sounds like a lot, but it's like less than a cent. So you can always bump this up. Sometimes I'll set to like 5,000. And then temperature is how creative is this going to get? So if I'm doing a lot of form manipulation of like, hey, go look at this data that I just gave it and extract specific data like as is, I'll drop this to like zero point 0.5. Otherwise, I usually leave it at 1 if I'm doing, especially like a lot of text-based prompting. So we'll leave it at 1. And a lot of these other ones, I just leave alone. Feel free to do your research, but I never touch them. So let's save and let's just run it and see what we get. Cool, so we ran it and then we can click in our results and we see our data that we expected, which was our result. And we're expecting core messages, which was an array, and LinkedIn post ideas, which is an array. So let's see what we got. Core messages. Speed differentiates high achievers. Rapid progress beats talent or IQ. Apply relentless pressure by burning the boats. This is all fantastic. It's exactly what we need. So those are the core messages that it pulled out. And then LinkedIn post ideas. We have, what would happen if you literally burn the boats on your next big goal, setting a hard deadline? So these would each be fantastic LinkedIn posts. So let's go to the next stage and let's keep moving. Now, this is when the chaining of prompts becomes super important. So we've created our 5 ideas for our LinkedIn post, but now we actually need to write the LinkedIn post. So let's grab our iterator. And now we'll have access to our array of LinkedIn post ideas. We'll throw it in here. Next, let's grab our next OpenAI module. And let's jump over and actually create the prompt. So again, this is just live of me creating these prompts. And this is the same process I actually run through when I'm generating these prompts, if I don't already have a prompt that I want to use. So I'm going to paste my prompt generator post in here, my meta prompt, and I already went ahead and added a purpose and everything just so you have to watch me type. But the idea is I want to turn a short LinkedIn post idea into a structured outline for writing compelling LinkedIn post. Input type, 1 sentence idea for a LinkedIn post, which is kind of what we have. Output structure, so I have the JSON with the following fields, and I just created a bunch of kind of general fields. And then I'm guessing we'll have to refine the style and tone a little bit. And finally, field constraints, which is just like how long the stuff is. So let's run this, get our prompt. So again, remember role, context, task, and then format to get our output. This is perfect. Your professional LinkedIn content strategist and AI writing assistant. Then our output formula gives it an example of exactly what we want. It has our character maxes in here, our types, which is like a string. I don't know if this is really worth having like a object in an object here, but whatever, we'll leave it alone. It'll come through on the other end just fine. And then it gives the details for each property that we're looking for. Have our edge cases, then our reliability instructions, like don't hallucinate, etc. And then here's our input. We'll pull in from our last module and the example output. So it's perfect. I mean, again, could have written this, but mine wouldn't have been that good if I just started writing that from scratch. Maybe yours would be, but it'll still save you time regardless. All right, then back to our module. So again, our model, but go for mini. Then we're gonna add our message. Again, we'll go straight for user because I feel like our prompt covers a lot of what we need for the setup. And then we just need to fix, for some reason it keeps doing this. We just need to fix the input. It has it multiple times. So we just want to have our input. What did it call it? Input variable. Let's call it input data. Input data. And then here we'll actually pull in the idea from our bundle, which I might have to fix this here in a second because that's just going to get the order position. We actually need to get the value coming out of it. But let's save this. And then let's update our advanced settings. Just run through it all again. JSON object. Need to parse the JSON. Reasoning effort, leave it alone. Max completion tokens. I usually just bump it up to 5K. Again, play with these. Temperature. I'll leave it 1. Leave it creative. But again, play with each of these. Put it to 0, see what happens. And the rest, I never touch these. Again, I never touch them, but you're welcome to play with them. So let's run that and see what we get. So see what the output was. So we have 5 bundles, which means 5 posts. Here's our results. And the output is what we want it to be. So we created a hook. Think success is talent or luck. It's speed, which is great. The summary of it, and then we have the structure of the actual post. So intro, we have to credit talent or luck for success. However, the real differentiator is velocity. Into CTA. So this is a great structure to a post. And then each bundle has the same structure. So our next step and final step for this is going to be to actually create the post for each one of these bundles. And again, the whole point of chaining all these together is really just to allow each prompt to focus in on one specific task or like a tighter task. If we would have started from the beginning and just said, hey, here's a transcript, go write 5 posts for me, we couldn't really control the hooks very well. We couldn't control the voice very well. There's so many variables and pieces that we'll want to control along the way. The cool thing with this is now each step we can come in here and say, we want to update just this prompt to get the ideas from our transcript. And then we'll iterate through. But then this next prompt, we want to update because we want to fine tune something within that prompt to give us better hooks or better CTAs. And then the same thing's going to be for this final one. We might want to just focus on the voice and we want to sound more like Gary Vee, or we want to sound like Oprah, whatever it might be. We wouldn't really have that fine-tuned control if we just said, hey, give me 5 posts or 10 posts, or 20 posts. So let's go do our final post here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab the meta prompt that I had, which should look familiar at this point. I've already updated the variables just so you don't have to watch me type. So purpose, I want to take a structured LinkedIn post outline and turn it into a polished, engaging post suitable for direct publish on LinkedIn. Input type, I describe the input, which matches the input from our last module, from our last prompt. In the output structure, a full LinkedIn post, plain text, no format or explanation. Now, like I said before, I typically like to output JSON, even if I'm just doing like a post. In this case, I just want to show an example of when you might not want to use JSON. So this is the actual just raw post coming out of this prompt instead of using JSON. So I'll show you the difference. Style and tone, you can change this however you'd like. Some edge case handling, and let's run it. You're a professional AI writing assistant, LinkedIn content strategist. Your job is to convert a structured post outline into a published LinkedIn post that is ready to publish. So it goes to our structure, explains what it's going to get, explains the goal of what we're looking for, the task, some edge case handling, and then the output. So let's give this a shot. Smooth this over, do a couple little tweaks. It should be good. So we'll fly through this. We'll throw our message in here. Can also pick our user, paste this in, and then I feel like it did the same thing it did last time, using the provided input data, that we called it. Yeah, then we'll switch this to input data, and then we'll take the output from here. And this is where the magic of AI works. I just throw the object in here, and AI will know what to do with it. So it's going to format this as JSON, but AI will know what to do with it. And we just define it up here somewhere. The input will contain the following fields. So we can just tell it, hey, you're going to get a JSON object. Here's what you should do with it. You should know what this is. Here's a definition of what each of these properties is. And honestly, it would figure it out if you didn't put it in there. All right. And then we're going to bump it up, and we will leave the response as text, just so you can get an idea of text. So ideally, this would output text, the actual post, and then you would go move the post somewhere. Save, and let's rename these real quick just so we know what's going on. Create LinkedIn posts, press outline. This will be create, like generate ideas. Generate ideas. Cool, let's run it, see if we get some posts. So as this is running, you can see what it's doing. So if you pay attention to these numbers, the first step generated, ran once and generated the ideas. Our iterator ran once, and now you can see it's running each one of these through 5 times. And then each one is creating the outline, and it's creating the post. So we don't have to wait for it to completely be done. So we can start digging into the post now. So first, let's look at the prompt that came in. You can see it was role, context, the goal, the task, style guide, and then here's our input. So this was the data that came from our last module, and we can feed it in here, and this is now some pretty advanced, not super advanced, somewhat advanced prompt chaining. And then let's look at our post that we got. So stuck in a 5-year plan, burn the boats, wager on yourself, and watch momentum explode. This is great. This might not be your exact style. Like a lot of times I like maybe shorter sentences, a little punchier, but that's where you can go back to the prompt and keep adding those bullet points and say, hey, I don't want any line to be longer than 15 words. Or maybe you don't like questions. Like I actually don't like questions at the end all the time. I just kind of like the punchier, like go get them kind of idea. So I would probably put a bullet point in saying like, don't use questions as the CTA. This is a great post. We could throw this as a picture of like you working at, some cool location, grab the one liner from the last post from the last step. It'd be great. I would say go download this blueprint. I always give these away for free. So please go download it. Use this variable, throw in whatever you want. Like you throw a blog post in here. You maybe need to update the prompt a little bit just to not say YouTube transcript. But you can throw a blog post in here. You throw kind of whatever you want to in here, and this whole flow will run. But hopefully that gave you some insight into my flow, my process of actually writing these prompts. I do this daily for clients and for my business. And I'm doing that process. But this flow is a quick example of how to create good prompts quickly. Make sure you're using the prompt formula, the role, context, task format. Like that's really been a big time saver for me. And then the ChatGPT hack. But I'll have this blueprint available for download, completely free. Need nothing from you. Just go use it. Hopefully it helps. Let me know how it goes. If you have questions, throw them in the comments. I will answer every question that comes up. Let me know if you have any better prompts that replace this one. This one was pretty much one I came up with. So if there's any other ones out there that you're like, this one's way better, please share it because I want to use it too. But otherwise, if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and check out my next video.